Can I interest you in a pre-repo? The car market is in the middle of a financial crisis right now. The average new car payment is $729 right now. Late car payments are on the highest levels seen since the 1990s. The average new vehicle right now in this market is $50,000. Even here at my car dealership, I sell cars for $2,500, for $3,500, for $4,000. People are still having a hard time getting money to buy even these cars. And the average used car payment is $528. So now here's the worry. People are actually wanting to walk away from their cars. So I'm a used car dealer and I get to see firsthand at these auctions what's actually going through the market. And what I'm seeing right now is we're seeing repos explode across these auctions. We found that the pre-repo package is the best way to get you back on your feet. So the search term GiveBackCar has recently exploded on Google Trends, and right now it's at the highest level that it has ever been. And what Google Trends does is actually tracks what people are researching on the internet, what they're Googling, what they're trying to find out. And what this is telling us is that more and more people right now are trying to figure out how to get out of their car payments. And they're going on Google to try to figure out how to self-repo, how to get rid of their car and get rid of these car payments that they can't afford anymore. So now here's the worry. People are actually wanting to walk away from their cars. And it's really an easy conclusion to get to, right? We can take the example of these Chargers and these Challengers. Just a year, 2 years ago, there was a big shortage of these vehicles and dealers were charging markups. And a lot of these markups that we've seen were $5,000, $10,000. We've seen even $20,000 over MSRP on a lot of these vehicles. And what that means is that people would go out and they would pay it and the banks would loan on it. So just right off the bat, these people that were buying these vehicles way over MSRP, they were already so far underwater on these loans right when they signed the dotted line. So now people are waking up and they're seeing that they can't afford everything that they're paying for right now. Inflation is still ridiculously high. Student loan payments are now coming into effect, and something's got to get dropped off of their bills. There's something that they're not going to pay. And they look at their car payment and they see that they are severely underwater. So much so that it actually looks hopeless to them. And in a lot of those cases, they're going to look at that, they're going to say, you know what, why even keep paying it? Let's try to figure out how to get out of this car. And they're going to try, like we're seeing in Google Trends, to get rid of their car, to self-repo. But a lot of banks, a lot of dealerships are not going to allow that to happen. They don't want these cars back. They want these customers to keep paying. So what's going to happen? They're going to stop paying on these loans anyway, and these cars are going to get repossessed. Yeah, so I really want to buy this car, but I've fallen on some hard times. My credit's bad. I don't have a job. Well, you're in luck, because we're offering the pre-repo package on this vehicle. And we found that the pre-repo package is the best way to get you back on your feet. So we can look at this for an example right here. This is a 2023 Challenger SXT. And the MSRP on this is $36,150. But in a lot of cases right now, because they have tons of them, you can actually find these things for under MSRP. So you go back to a year and a half ago, somebody bought this same Challenger and they paid a $10,000 markup on it. So they paid $45,000 for it. And you can buy a brand new one probably somewhere around $34,000, $35,000. And that person who bought it a year and a half ago, they probably still owe $42,000, $43,000 on it, because, you know, in most cases people put the minimum amount down that they have to, and they make the minimum payments that they have to make. So you can easily see the situation where, okay, this customer that owes $42,000 on it, they walk up on a Dodge lot and they say, what, this brand new one of the same thing that I have is almost $10,000 cheaper than what I owe on mine. It makes people start to think. And since I go to these used car dealer auctions, I get to see cars like this. These are repos from a buy here, pay here dealer. These are cars that are not going to show up in any kind of data. They don't have to report to anyone. They literally go take the car from the customer, they come and dump it here at the auction. And you'll see cars like this. This is a 2013. It's got almost 200,000 miles on it. I often get asked in the comments, how does a 10-year-old car with 200,000 miles get repoed? Well, people don't keep their cars forever. When they buy new cars, they trade them in and buy other new cars. So these cars back behind me, they make their way to the used car market and someone else will buy them. But people don't just buy used cars with cash, they also get those financed. So if they stop paying their payments on these used cars that they bought secondhand, you know what? They can still get repoed. So these entities, a lot of times banks will finance a lot of these used cars, but a majority of what you're seeing back there behind me are financed by small car dealers, and they hold a lot of their own notes, meaning that they're basically the bank for these customers. And when these customers stop paying on these loans, they don't give them very long. They miss 2-3 payments, and that small car dealer, they'll go and they'll repo that car, and that's how you see it back there. And here's your line of pre-repos. So I actually use this joke a lot, this pre-repo line, right? And there's some truth to it, because what we're seeing at these auctions is that the highest volume of cars that are actually being repoed are these toys, these Chargers, these Challengers, these Mustangs, these Camaros. And I really think it's a factor of who's been buying these cars in the last few years. And it's really, it's young people, it's the millennials, it's the Gen Zers, the people that have maybe more credit availability than they have since. And they signed up for a lot of these loans that they knew that they couldn't afford, and now times are getting tough and something's got to go, and it's their car payment. So they're not paying them, and now they're getting them repoed. So when you're talking about these cars that are getting repoed, this is a lot of times what they look like, body damage, because if a customer knows that they're getting their car repoed, they're really not going to take care of it. You can see there's dings on this hood. Check this out, spare tire, another bit of body damage over there. And if you look in a lot of these cars, they're just absolutely nasty. Stains on, I can't believe I touched it, stains on the seats. But people are not taking care of these cars when they know that they're going to lose them. So one of the big problems over the last couple years obviously has been price. These cars are way too expensive. We can take an example of just like your standard SUV, a Jeep Grand Cherokee. This one right here is just a 2-wheel drive model. And the MSRP is still $47,000, and after your fees and your add-ons and everything is still $50,000, and that's what we're seeing across the market. The average new vehicle right now in this market is $50,000, and consumers, they can't afford it. They think they can when they go sign on the line, but when they get home, when they start putting their bills together, when they actually start paying for these vehicles, they're finding out that they cannot afford them. The monthly payments are too high for the average American, and this is why we're having a crisis right now. All right, so let's talk about car payments for a second. I've got my notes here. So the average new car payment right now is $729, and the average used car payment is $528. That's absolutely ridiculous. So for people to actually afford these payments, what they're having to do is actually extend a lot of these loan terms. Now we're seeing 7-year terms on a lot of these new cars just to get these monthly payments low enough to where these people can actually afford to make the payments. And here's the problem with this, and this is my worry for long term, for years down the road, is that some of these new cars, some of this trash, I mean, I'm walking in front of some of these like Jeep Renegades and stuff like that. Some of this trash that these OEMs are putting out, they're not going to last 6-7 years, and they're going to have some kind of major repair that these consumers are going to have to fix on these cars. And obviously the warranties on these vehicles don't last that long. So what has to happen is that these consumers have to come up with the money to actually fix these cars. And they're already living paycheck to paycheck. And really what we talk about in the used car realm, when I talk to buy here, pay here dealers that actually hold their own notes, they say that there's a saying that they say the customers have money for one thing. They can either make the payment on the car or they can fix the car, but they can't do both. And it's going to start happening on these new car loans as they get extended longer and longer and longer, that you get into year 5, year 6 on these loans, and they have a repair that they have to do, but they still have this $500 monthly payment, and they're living paycheck to paycheck already. They can't afford to fix this car and to make their monthly payment. So I believe that this is going to cause this repo crisis to happen for years and years and years down the road, because these people are signing up for these ridiculously long loans that they really can't afford right now at the beginning of the loan. So we're getting as many views as some of the top channels on YouTube, channels that have millions and millions and millions of subscribers, but you're not hitting the subscribe button on our channel. I want to know why. Let me know down in the comments. I need you to hit that subscribe button, please, and please like this video. Thank you. So what we know is that most Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and over the last couple years they got accustomed to this lifestyle where they were getting extra money from the government, interest rates were low, they were able to buy what they wanted, when they wanted, go out to eat, spend all this money, and we're seeing that they can't do that anymore. And how we know this is because we see that the credit card data, the amount of debt people are taking on is increasing, it's going up and up and up, and people's savings rates are going down and down and down. So they're spending the available money that they have, they're running out of that, and then they're running up these credit cards. And we're seeing that there are more and more credit cards that are actually getting defaulted on, just like these car payments. And the next thing that we have coming into the system is that, you know what, student loan payments are due right now too. And we're racking up all of these bills that people have to pay, and they don't have enough money to pay for them. Something is not going to get paid. And we're already seeing it now in the system that these cars, these are one of the first things that they are not paying for. They're trying to get rid of these payments. They're stopping on these payments, and these cars are getting repossessed. So even here at my car dealership, what we're finding, and keep in mind, the cars that I sell, we are strictly $5,000 and under on all the vehicles that we sell at our lot. But we're still finding that the consumer that's coming to us, they're still having a harder time actually getting the money to purchase our vehicles. And even when they do scrounge up the $3,500, the $4,000 to actually buy a car from us, then insurance is then a battle after that, because insurance is going up too. So they're having to shell out this money for this car that a lot of them have a hard time getting together, and then they're considering their monthly payments going forward. And even so, we can lose consumers because their insurance is just too high, and they can't afford to add that on top of what they're already paying on an average monthly basis. And that's really something I don't talk about a lot on my channel, but we're seeing that, and I see it a lot in the comments that, yeah, you've got student loans that have been added. You've had all this inflation that has caused monthly payments to go up through the roof. Eggs, groceries, everything, your rent is all going up. But too, with the cost of owning these cars, insurance has even gone up. And I see what people are paying for insurance on my cars, these $5,000 and under. I can only imagine how much is going up now for these toy owners, these sports car owners on these vehicles. Really, they couldn't afford to be in these loans anyway, and now their insurance costs are going through the roof. So now, who's to blame for all of this? Well, really, it's a lot of people, right? It's a lot of factors, that a lot of moving pieces in this crisis that cause this crisis. Number one, it's the consumer, right? You have to be a smart consumer. You have to know what you're paying for. You have to know that you can actually afford the payment. Whenever you're signing your line on the contract, you have to know that you have to be able to fulfill the contract. So the customer, really, it stops with the customer. They should have known that they could not afford these payments. They couldn't afford to buy these vehicles. They should have known that they were too expensive. They shouldn't have signed up for these loans. Also, you've got these dealers that are charging these ridiculous market adjustments, causing the values of these vehicles to go way above what they were actually worth. You have add-ons, you have market adjustments, you have nitrogen, you have all this, without cussing, all this stupid stuff that these dealers are just gouging consumers with. And you have these banks that were allowing these dealers to gouge these customers. And the reason I'm saying that is because if the banks wouldn't allow these consumers to get loans on these vehicles that were way over the value, then these dealers couldn't sell them, because without the loans, none of these vehicles will move. People aren't paying cash for these cars. They're getting loans through the banks. So the banks are allowing the dealers to gouge, and the banks are allowing these customers who can't afford these loans to actually get these loans. So there we go. We got OEMs that made vehicles too expensive. We got dealers that added even more money on top of these vehicles to sell to consumers. You have consumers that signed up for these bad loans, and then you have the banks that allow it to happen. So when you're talking about these repos, this is what it usually looks like. Smashed up cars. You got a bee follow me. Boom. All right. We'll have to do that again. That was a yellow jacket. I didn't get them. And every week is increasing. Nope. Going through the roof. Nope. The majority of... is that the cars that are actually being reposed. So we have... No, let's start over.